I'd like to welcome today's guest. Welcome to the Front Porch, our product manager slash owner slash what question mark for mobile solutions, Martin Baugh. Martin, welcome to the Front Porch.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Nice to be here.
Welcome to the Front Porch with Brian Beaudry.
Let's start off with that. What's the difference between a product manager and a product owner, and what are you now?
The simplest form is that one is strategic and the other is tactical. There's a lot of overlay between those. And in many organizations, there aren't two. But when James came on board, he saw that we had a need and a purpose to actually fulfill both roles independently. And so I have played both roles, which is why you have the slash as you say it. Currently, I'm the product owner. So
Okay.
I work most closely with the development team, prioritizing our backlog, working with them to refine out the problems that we're trying to solve for our customers. And so helping them identify who it is we need to help, what the problem is, and what we can do to solve it, and then executing on it. And
Sure.
then
And that's the tactical side.
that's the tactical side.
Okay.
Yep. So you're actually with the team doing work, producing things, and whereas John would be interviewing customers to identify what those problems are, I'd be interviewing customers to identify how well we did, how successful were we, does it actually solve the problem, can we improve it? So
Okay.
more tactile, more things you can touch. Actually, like boots on the ground, delivering products.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
Now I don't have to ask that question anymore to people.
Cool.
Let's start with our normal basics, which is who are you, where are you from, and finally, what do you do when you're stuck in traffic?
Well, I am from San Diego, California originally.
Okay.
I was about 3 when we moved to the East Coast. So I actually grew up in Florida. So you'll often hear me refer to Florida as home. It's where a majority of my family is.
Yeah.
And so I was there until 2013 and then came to the DFW area to actually pursue my career in tech. So that's actually what brought me out here.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like if you left when you're 3, it's hard to say you're like really from there. It's like, yeah, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, but the only thing that people can pick up on is that because of my parents, I didn't get the Floridian accent or that southern kind of tone in my voice.
Okay.
Like just the majority of people around me were either from the Midwest or from the West. So
Okay.
I'm kind of a hodgepodge in terms of things that I'll say. And then I guess to round out your last question, in traffic, I'm actually a very patient person. And
Okay.
so I just, kind of sit there. I either enjoy podcasts, listen to music, kind of people watch. Unfortunately, it's a great place to see people just going, absolutely nuts,
I
getting
was gonna
so
say
angry. Yeah.
I like to not watch people in traffic because then I become aware of how
you,
little they're paying attention.
you can watch them, but you can't make eye contact. That
Yes.
you don't want to actually draw attention to yourself. But yeah, it is frightening sometimes to see how often people are on their phones or what else they're doing or if a kid's running around with no seatbelt on or something. And yeah, it kind of is there. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, traffic's not something that actually like frustrates me or causes me any anger. I've never had road rage, so I just kind of just chill there and try to get through it
Okay.
and
Well,
be thankful that I don't drive a manual transmission anymore.
yeah, I was gonna say you don't seem very rage filled. So okay. I will recommend one thing though. A while ago, I had a DSLR, and I would just ride in the passenger seat and just pointed at people. People do not like that.
That's awesome. Sit there and snap photos.
It wasn't even snapping photos. It wasn't even on. It was
Yeah, yeah,
just like,
just to draw the attention.
people
Yeah,
people don't know that.
yeah, cool.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into job history, and
Mhm.
let's start with everyone when they're a kid. Usually, adults ask them like, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Do you remember like the first thing that you would tell people?
I do actually. I actually was an aspiring astronaut as a little one, so probably around second or third grade. I just got a
Hmm.
fondness for space and stars and things like that, and so I was always telling myself that I wanted to be an astronaut, and
And in Florida, that could be like
it was
it's kind of
plausible.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was plausible. I could have gone into the Navy and really pursued that career. Interestingly enough, I had no desire to be a pilot, which is also another like way to get in there. So I don't know why I just jumped straight to being
Outer
astronaut.
spaase or nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm either out there or I'm not. Like I wasn't willing to do all the work in between. So I guess that's how I wound up here.
yeah, I was gonna ask how close did you get to that, or was it a thing where you're in high school and you're like,
I mean, I've seen a few space launches because I lived in Florida, so I guess that counts, right?
I'm gonna say it doesn't.
It definitely doesn't. So yeah, definitely didn't get close to it. It actually faded rather quickly, believe it or not. Just as like really when I was in my teenage years, I got into a fondness for hiking in the outdoors,
Okay.
and from there that actually became just like my drive. I was buying backpacking gear and going on backpack trips and hiking through the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachians, and yeah, it just literally just dropped out of sight.
Oh,
Never
interesting.
even
So
thought
you're
about it.
like, you know what's a planet? Earth. I like this planet.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much to do and so much to see. And yeah, until someone like you brings it up and says, "What was it you thought you were going to be as a kid?" I don't really ever never think about it. I
Yeah.
don't even see it as a miss. Just
Okay. So, like, were you planning on becoming a geologist or like a forest ranger, or what was your?
So I thought about the Forest Service. Definitely not into geology or anything of that nature. And I know they say like if you love what you do, you'll never work your day in your life.
Yeah.
But I also love that it was a detachment from all of my life. Like it wasn't just just work you
Yeah.
were getting away from. It was cell phones and friends and I mean literally just like the solitude and it's very peaceful and therapeutic.
Yeah.
And so that even too faded. There was a brief period of my life where I thought I was going to go in that, and I just realized this is just what I want to do as a hobby. And at the time, one of the things you'd asked me earlier on was, like what else have you done in your professional career? But at the time I was in restaurants, and it was just a nice getaway.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see not wanting to intertwine everything because I kind of followed that path of like, yeah, I do want to do what I have a passion for, and then it's like, oh, now I never get away from it.
Yep.
It's always in my head, and now I am kind of interested in finding some of those getaway spots. So
Cool.
good call on that. So at what point what are you choosing to do in school then once you're like saying like, no, I just want to have this as a hobby, or how does
So
your career start?
interesting thing about school, I tried 3 times to go to college and made it about a year each time, and ended it, and then would take a break for a year, and then did it again. And on the third time, I never returned. So I was a very successful restaurant manager. I had a
Hmm.
great opportunity when I was in my early 20s to run 2 restaurants. And so I took that, hit the ground running, and just kind of did that. But because it was a locally owned business, I actually was able to learn, how to manage a GL, and actually we were one of the early adopters of a cashless debit card system.
Hmm.
So there was the arcade games, keeping them in repair, and the cashless system, and working very closely with their development team to move into the United States. They were actually a company based out of Australia, and they didn't know how to handle. At the time, Florida had tax tables. I don't know if you remember that nightmare, but
No,
Florida had tiered taxing.
I tried
It
not to
was
deal with taxes
it's
as a youth.
they've simplified it now, but in the early 2000s, they were still holding on to some legacy crazy tax rules, and so I'd work with them on how to handle and manage that, and yeah, developed a great relationship with them and helped them kind of better their product and actually get like real world voice of customer, me being the customer. And actually, in 2013, I got an opportunity to come work for them, and so I actually ended up going from the operations side to the people behind the curtain, the actual things that make it happen.
Yeah.
And if you've been to Dave and Buster's, you've actually used the product of that company. Those little glowing orbs on the front of the game with a little screen that lights up that
Yeah.
you tap your card or phone on. That was the hardware side of the product, and then there was also software, kiosk software, the back end management system, and all the payment integrations and things like that.
Neat. Okay, well, first I need to get like now I need to go back into I was a restaurant manager.
Yep.
So like how I know you don't start as a restaurant manager probably. Are you starting as like, dishwasher work your way up or how did that
Very first job, Chuck E. Cheese, believe it or not. So I
Okay.
was at Chuck E. Cheese for 2.5 years, from like you know early year 16 to somewhere just after I turned 18.
So you always kind of like
Um,
this entertainment and meal like hybrid.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so I was there, and one of the restaurant managers with whom I worked got me a job at Olive Garden. So I was going into college, and I figured, I'll be a server. That's what everyone
Yeah.
does, right? It's easy to do, flexible hours, can generate a lot of cash flow to pay for your, your food, so you're not just eating ramen all the time as a college student.
Yep.
And it was an obvious fit. And because he was in the service industry, he had friends in the service industry. So literally I walked in, talked to this guy named Tony for maybe 5 minutes. It was the strangest interview I've ever had. We literally just talked to like we were friends meeting for the first time, like we are now. What are your hobbies? What do you do? Didn't really ask me about any job things. And he was like, well, Thomas said you're good, so you're already hired.
Nice.
Okay. And so, I spent 3 years at Olive Garden, and Olive Garden wanted to get me into their management track
Mhm.
at the end of that tenure. And at that same time, the same person, Thomas, who had referred me to Olive Garden, was actually working at this restaurant too, and called me up and said, "You're not going into Olive Garden management. You're going to come manage with me."
Yeah.
And so
Let
I went
me
and
show
managed two
you my
restaurants with him.
management.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, and I somewhat wonder like how that timing worked out. That literally, as I was filling out paperwork for Olive Garden's management track program, that someone picks up the phone and says, "Why don't you come hang out with me and let's run these two restaurants together?"
Yeah. So, I mean, what was it like going in that process and being like, yeah, I imagine it takes some guts to be like, yeah, I can definitely run a couple of restaurants as I'm guessing you're in your
Early
20s.
20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, early 20s. I think I was 23 at the time.
Yeah. Like, yeah, this is totally normal for a 23-year-old to be in charge of
I was
restaurants.
the youngest on the team by far, but my technical aptitude is actually what helped me excel. And so, like I told you, we were, I think, the third restaurant in the United States that this company had onboarded with a card cashless system. And I just logged into the application and figured out how we could set up stock. And this is new software; they had never done any of these things before. So I was actually using the serial numbers to create my own category and class, and I was using their menu template in ways they'd never done. And they actually wrote a couple of their first manuals for their other customers using a copy of our system. And they ended up developing categories and classes because they saw how I had everything organized. They saw some of the reports I was generating, and would ask me how this was happening. And I was like, well, you need to be able to identify these things. So I created a 4-digit identifier and another 4-digit identifier and then an individual identifier that's a string, hyphenated string.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of, I guess, early success, being the, I don't know, tenacious, spunky person on the team who was not afraid of actually getting this restaurant to function properly and to learn everything I could about wireless. At the time, it was 2.4 gigahertz wireless comms to these like tethered Cat5 strings with these little hubs. And some people just, I guess, some of our other managers, while they're great at working with the people, I kind of let myself onto that other side and had to learn the people side. Like you said, I was young. I didn't know how to manage a team. Like I had to learn that as I went. But the other stuff I picked up and which was showing them. So was very fortunate and had my own place on the team and could share in all of our successes.
Nice. Okay, so you mentioned that you end up at the software company that you were working with and helping them develop. How does that go down? Like, hey, thanks for bringing me aboard. I'm gonna go with these guys now.
So the owners of the restaurants decided to close one of the two businesses, and that was actually the one I was most commonly at. And we weren't sure like what that future meant. So this was 2013. Believe it or not, the 2008 housing crisis was still lingering in Florida. Yeah. It hit Florida pretty hard, and so the economy wasn't very great. And so we were very open. We're friends at this point in time. Well, like I said, I ended up working with the GM was and still is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Became friends with the owners, and we were just very open about it. I said I should probably go work somewhere else. Like this isn't where I should be.
Yeah.
Restaurants are closing. This isn't going well. And I actually almost went and worked for Chili's. I had another in there to manage with Chili's.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the blue, I got a call from DFW from one of the team members who was here on visa from Australia that
Mhm.
I had been liaising with and working with, and said, "Have you thought about coming to work for us? Like, we'd love to have you. You know, we've had manuals built on the system you built. Like, we need that level of expertise
Yeah.
here as well." And so I thought about it long and hard and realized I did not want to be a restaurant manager for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
kind of the opposite of what I thought I was going to do as a kid. I just knew I didn't want to be a restaurant manager for the rest of my life. And so I took the leap and actually started with them as like what I guess equivocally a tier 3 support.
Yeah.
And from there, I quickly moved into installation manager and then on into product. But I was always kind of feeding, like I said, voice of customer to them and doing those kinds of things. And so that piqued their interest and kind of ended up working out. I do believe the owner of the restaurant actually may have reached out to them and said, "Martin's available, and you're foolish if you let him go work at Chili's."
Yeah.
And so I think there may have been a little side thing
It's
there.
really
that-
trying to keep you out of these other
yeah,
places. Okay, so that kind of answered my question as to, you've been in restaurants basically your whole career at this point, and like
Yep.
what makes you decide, oh, I'm going to do this totally different thing. I guess the other question I would have is, it seems like your whole life, except for until you were 3, you've been in Florida, and then you're just
Yep.
like, yeah, let me go ahead and go on over to Dallas. Is it just like the job opportunity was so good, or?
Believe it or not, it was the career opportunity. The actual monetary opportunity was less than the offer I was given to stay in restaurants.
Yeah.
But I just saw it. Um, like I was mentioning, the economy in Florida was still kind of had its ups and downs. Texas was not faring that way. Like Dallas was thriving,
Yeah.
and so I kind of just made a gamble and pulled the trigger. I owned a home out there that I had to sell, and came out here. And it felt weird to be renting a home in Florida and renting a home here, and thinking I was going to be in the house I'd purchased just 2 years earlier, longer than 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 19 months, I think, when I came out to the DFW area, and it just felt right. It just felt like it. Like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I did not want to lock myself into nights and weekends and holidays for another decade.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so you join there as tier 3. You move into implementation. What kind of stuff? What are you doing as an implementation or whatever person? There?
So there was a hardware component to that, but like I said, those things on the game. So we would actually go out and help sync them to the system, teach their techs, their on-site techs, how to do these
Mhm.
pairings and how to set everything up. Because up until that point, 90 something percent of the world, I would say, yeah, it's probably still 90, 85, 90. It was a huge percentage. We're still coin operations. And so now
Yeah.
you're telling them it's going to be radio communication and,
You guys
all this
are
tech. And
you guys are helping kill off coins, but I like collecting coins, so thanks, jerk.
yep. Yeah. I'm sorry, Brian. Yeah. Your coin collection will suffer because of the work I have done. But yeah, we would go out there, do training, similar to kind of what Point of Rental does. We train on how to use the system. It's similarly complex, and it would do bookings too for birthday parties. So there was an availability, calculation. There was all the stock management side of it. In fact, the retail side of it, it's its own store. Like we go scan everything out with your barcodes and your tickets and do the exchange there. And we would help them set up their rate structure and if they want to peak rates and things like that. 'Cause as much as you would like to think that all those games stay the same, once you have the ability to change your pricing on a
Yeah.
whim, even by hour, we could do happy hours and everything. So it's like it would just kind of open up these operators' eyes into how the earning potential could be greatly increased. And so we would go out there, test everything, train them, and get them up and running and being successful.
Interesting. Okay, so you start off, you're the subject matter expert that's helping them figure out how to do the software. Then you're teaching other people how to do the software.
Yep.
When do you get into product managing and having other people be the experts in the software that you can help build the new stuff?
So I started there 2013 and 2015. We wanted to take on more larger customers, and so some of those larger enterprise customers, Chuck E. Cheese was one of them. I ended up kind of raising my hand when they said, "Who wants to help with this project?"
It's because you wanted to get back to Chuck E. Cheese.
It was. It wasn't for the pizza. I'll promise you that.
Yeah.
It was, nor that terrifying animatronic mouse they still have in a few of them. But
Yeah, I was hoping that you would have some fun Chester or Chucky Charles E. Cheese.
yeah,
Sorry.
Charles Xavier. You know what the E stands for?
No.
Entertainment.
Oh, I did know that.
That's his middle name. Entertainment.
You put me on the spot, and my mind
You
blanked.
fumbled. Yeah.
Yep.
So I raised my hand for that position, and I didn't realize at the time that what we were doing was the first throes of my product management career. So I was identifying the problems and challenges they had as a business, what they were trying to solve, documenting them. I went to like 17 different stores and met with the teams and the managers. And we had, at our company, just recently gone from a waterfall style development to an actual Scrum style with a product manager. And it was a gentleman named Jasmine who was just absolutely brilliant. And he pulled me into his team. He saw what we were doing and pulled some strings and said, Martin doesn't need to work with the implementation side anymore. Like, I need this anchor in the U.S. We need to make sure we're developing the right things. And that was the start of it. And so got pulled into product and never looked back.
Nice. Okay, for me who does not know product lingo, what's the difference between what's a waterfall and versus Scrum method? What's the difference?
Okay, so
'Cause
waterfall.
I'm picturing an actual waterfall, and that's probably not.
It actually works. Think
Okay,
about that. So
okay.
yeah, keep that in your mind. So waterfall is where you will set up basically everything you think that you need to do to develop something. Like you actually know the solution you're trying to get to, and you're just going to keep developing and turning it out. And a lot of waterfall projects usually have very long periods before you'll release. And so you know what you need to do, and you're just going to knock it all out. You're just going to let it all flow over the waterfall. Like you're just going to let you put all the work in the pipeline, and you're just going to execute.
Okay.
And Scrum is an agile practice where you are consistently checking and reprioritizing to make sure you're doing the right thing. So you build a product backlog, you start identifying how you're going to solve these problems, and then you release more quickly. You put things into people's hands more quickly to get feedback from them. And if you're not on the right path, you will fail fast and fail forward, and you'll shift and pivot. And so there's some risk in waterfall styles. Both have their advantages and their disadvantages.
Yeah.
There are times when waterfall is what you know and what you do. Like if you are working for an integrations middleware software company, and they define out the terms of what they want from one end and what the other terms are the other. You have the API endpoints. Like you just knock the project out. Like you just put the pieces in and you're done, and then you test and it's good.
That sounds very convenient and therefore very appealing.
Yeah, like I said, they both have their advantages.
Yeah.
It just depends on what kind of project you're, trying to do and what you're trying to deliver. And with Scrum, which is kind of what we lean towards here at Point of Rental, is to get something, a unit of value to a customer quickly with each release. To check often, check quickly. Do proof of concepts and trials and tests.
Yeah.
And learn from them. And so it's a more exciting and hands-on, and also kind of helps you develop in a, like the rental market that's kind of forever ebbing and flowing in different ways.
Yeah.
So that's why it's working well for us. But I would imagine like there are times when we still would do something you might even consider a waterfall project.
Yeah. I mean, not everything can go exactly the same style. I think there's every once in a while, hey, let's just have this one clean one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, is that what you were doing immediately before Point of Rental, or was there something in between?
There was a COVID pandemic break.
Oh yeah, that was a thing.
It was a thing. So let's rewind a bit where the reason I was pulled in was we were going after enterprise organizations. As it turns out, theirs aren't just in the U.S. So we were going after large organizations in the Middle East, in Australia, Southeast Asia. And so I actually worked myself and, again, raised my hand up because I love to travel into a role where I was traveling. In 2019, I think it was like mid-August before I spent as many days in the U.S. as I had out of the U.S. I was actually in a U.S. deficit up until August. Just traveling a lot, spending a lot of time in Canada. And actually, right before the pandemic, I had already been in Australia, Dubai, UK, and Canada already that year by whatever it was, March 20 something.
I'm going to say you were the super spreader. Okay.
Yeah, so I would have my, yeah, oh man, now I'm getting fingers pointed at me. That's not nice.
Nope. I like to make our guests feel guilty and accused at all times.
It's interesting you say that. I was in Singapore that year too. I just now recall that. And it was odd because it was like, I'd been there like a year prior and like twice as many people were already wearing masks there. Like I felt odd. I was the only, like one of the people not wearing a mask. But
You're like,
so,
is this a cool fad that's going on yet?
yeah, I didn't get the notice or the
Yeah.
memo. So not only are you the odd tall person on the train, you're also not wearing a mask and looking foolish. So anyway, I got a phone call maybe a week after lockdown, and I expected it. Like
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in Dubai for 2 weeks in April, and I was supposed to have been in Australia after that. And they're very solemn. They pick up the phone. I was like, guys, you're making the right decision. I can't go anywhere. Like I am quite literally useless to you.
Yeah.
And also, they're all family entertainment, arcade, and amusement driven.
Yeah. It's not a great time
90%
for
of
that
their
industry.
revenues dried up in a week.
Yeah.
It was quite challenging. I was actually super excited. I saw quite a few friends that worked there that they survived. But anyway, I was let go, and so I kind of just was riding out the pandemic in my apartment until trying to think August, and my lease was expiring, and I decided not to renew it. And in true super spreader form, I got in my Subaru and I started traveling the Pacific Northwest and doing camping and hiking and backdoors, boondocking and stuff. So,
All right. You got to do the stuff that you wanted to do.
yeah, I did. So I spent that. I was doing that for like 2 months, and I was actually in Oregon on this mountain camping for a few days. And as I was driving down, my phone
Got
happened
reception.
to get reception, and I had a voicemail from our friend Lathan,
Okay.
and I was referred here from one of our old support managers, and spoke to Lathan and spoke to David Jensen, and then had a conversation with Matt Gaffin and Robert Flock, and now I'm here.
Well, that was going to be the next question: is how did you end up here? So I assume that if Lathan was calling you, that he was told by the support.
Yeah,
person?
our sport manager. Yeah, at the
Okay.
time, they had referred threw my name in the hat, gave me a call, and it's actually kind of a cool story. When I did my interview with Robert and Matt, I think it was Robert who commented like, "That's a cool background of the Grand Canyon behind you." And I was like, I turned and I looked at it, and he goes, "Wait, is that on your wall?" I said, "No, it's not on my wall." I was like, "I'm in the visitor center of the Grand Canyon, so I could take this interview with you," because I was beelining it from Oregon, because I'd had I think 2 calls with David Jensen that had gone really well, so I had a positive feeling about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Man, I got to get back to Texas," but I'm like
Yeah.
thousands miles away, and and I'd made it as far as the Grand Canyon when I connected with them. So my interview was actually at the Grand Canyon Welcome Center, and the mural behind me was just my camera on with whatever was painted on the wall at the Grand Canyon.
Okay. Well, at least you were doing it indoors. It would have been a real flex to be like right outside. You're like,
So-
yeah, I'm actually. No, that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, I wanted good connectivity, so
Yeah.
the day before I started checking around the town that's just outside of the south entrance.
Yep.
And as it turns out, they have IMAX at the Welcome Center,
Mhm.
and so they have gigabit internet, which they at the time left unthrottled. So when I did a speed check there, I was getting like synchronous, like 800 up down connection, and I was like, "This is where I'm doing my interview.
Yeah.
I will have a flawless connection."
All right. Perfect. All right. So, what is it? You're managing the mobile products.
Mhm.
What? I guess what's your favorite part of what you do here at Point of Rental?
Ooh, my favorite part. I'd have to say it is working with the teams I get to work with. Point of Rental has they're amazing teams all around. And that's why when you walk through the halls, you see how many tenured individuals we have here, 5, 10, 20-year employees. And you could see why. And so like whenever I get on calls and we can actually solve these problems or come up with solutions and identify timelines and work together, but still have a really good time doing it and still never get bored of joining on calls with people, and I always enjoy just being able to kind of have like a good personal and professional relationship with all of them, and that has been the one thing, and that's why I've been here 4 years. It continues to be true to this day, and I'll be here for many more.
Yeah. So you still have a positive relationship with everyone? Because I know, especially for mobile, it's like there's this push to have mobile available to everything, even though everything is kind of built on different systems. So there's definitely a lot of challenges for you.
There are, but we were I mean, I see it as a fortunate. We had hired some, I would say, to some extent, junior devs few years back, and they have now grown and evolved with it. And so, while they did need a lot of mentoring from everyone around them, they had no bad habits or anything there either. So as we needed to learn how to solve these problems, we did it together. If we need to learn how to communicate or do cross teamwork, we did it together. And yeah, it's been just one good success after the other, and they've never shied away from it. And I've always raised my hand, and like anytime we have something that we want to trial or something new we want to do, it's like I know they'll handle it, and I know I can trust them to give me honest feedback. And so, kind of having that relationship, those challenges just don't seem like challenges. Is we're going to do this one, then the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
Now I want to ask a question that's not on our list. So you have no preparation for it. And I'm going to ask you to do the equivalent of like when you ask a parent to pick their favorite kid. What's your favorite feature that you've been able to roll out in your time for mobile?
My favorite feature is actually an enhancement to a feature.
Okay.
So we launched with routes when we decided to go general availability with PR1, which was January of 23. And so that's effectively our first major feature.
Yeah.
It has many features in it, but let's just call it a feature in and of itself, because to a driver, that's the thing they need. Without any piece of it, it would fail to them.
Yep.
And so this year we actually went through and did an effort to reduce the amount of inputs, streamline it, automate it, test navigation, make it work more quickly. And it was awesome because it was actually enough of an effort that we wanted to execute so quickly that we actually just put our heads down and like focused on it and the outcomes. And so for like, I think it was 2 sprints, so basically like 6 weeks, it was just like all we lived and breathed was how do we make routes better? How do we make routes better? How do we test it to make sure that it's flawless?
Yeah.
And it was an awesome project. And we actually have had over the course of this year, so this isn't a sole reason that's happened because we've also grown in customer base too, but we've had over 300% increase in the amount of tasks generated from routes. So our uptake has been huge. And this was one of the contributing factors to it. And so it's amazing to see the success that it brought. It was an absolutely just fun project to go back to what you had already delivered. That was our major selling point for all of 23, and to look at it and say, how can we make this better? Like, this needs to be more awesome.
Yeah.
And we can do it. And we did. And then when we checked in with support, actually it was Francis, the one that I called out on one of our calls after we delivered it, and said, what's the feedback? And they said, we've heard nothing. We have no tickets generated from it. So it was kudos to the team.
I was going to say, I feel like that's the thing you love hearing most.
It was. Yeah, it was. So when you say like, what's my favorite feature, it's got to be that. It made it like solved the problem for everybody. Made everyone wanted to get their job done more quickly. It was very successful, and we were able to just put our heads down and focus, which was it was awesome.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we get into other things, I want to play a game with you. We'll call it Baugh or Nah. If you agree with the statement or it's true, say Baugh. If you disagree with it or if it's not true, say Nah.
Okay.
And
I like the play on words you're doing here.
I'll need a reason here. Okay. So first of all, Baugh or Nah, you've been known to cry at movies.
No.
No, you're like, there's no kind of movie that gets you.
There are, but I usually need to be thinking about it and focused on it. So if I do, no one would know it because it would be like one I'd be watching by myself.
Yeah.
And it's not that I really care if someone saw me cry or not.
Yeah.
I think it's just a distraction of having anyone else in the room. Because even when you see something sad, you'll look over at them and be like, "Are you crying?" And so
I'm not crying.
Yeah.
Are you crying?
You crying? Yeah. And so, just having that, I think, changes it. And then, but when you're just locked in your own thoughts, I think you're more likely to let your emotions get to you.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Baugh or nah, you cheat at board or card games?
Nah.
No.
So it's funny you said I love board and card games. I've got a huge stack of them at my house, and so look, I like I'm a PO tactics.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to execute. I want to know that I did it right. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to win by cheating or lying or whatever. Now that being said, there is a game called Coup, which
Okay.
the goal is to lie. You don't
To
want
lie and cheat. Okay.
Yeah. So if the purpose is to lie and cheat, I surely will. But if it's an honest game like Monopoly Deal or something, I don't ever try to.
I was gonna say
Essential out there.
that's tough. If the requirement of the game is to lie and cheat, are you cheating if you're not lying?
Oh,
and not
if you're
cheating?
being solely truthful, maybe.
I don't know.
That's
We'll leave that for the philosophers, I guess.
yeah.
Baugh or nah, you've told an outrageous lie to a child.
Baugh.
Okay, what's the best lie that you've told to a child?
It's gonna be Santa. Like every child likes to believe in Santa, right? Like so you got to go with the Santa Claus.
See, now I have to put a spoiler on before
Yeah.
spoiler alert thing on.
Sorry,
before
everybody.
this.
But yeah, you got to go with it. The Christmas spirit, which is great. We're actually doing this around Christmas time, so it actually ties.
Well, don't
into
tell people because this is gonna go months from now. I'm recording several months in
They'd
advance.
be like, "It's June of 25. Why are you
Yeah.
talking about Christmas?" But yeah, it's great. It actually brightens your day too to kind of see them light up and be excited about it, and
Yeah.
to kind of see the response of even just getting presents from some magical source that's coming around on a special day to reward them for being a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And really, that's the story. The moral of it is be a good person. Good things will happen to you, and you don't know where those will come from or who they are. It doesn't have to be your family. And so yeah, I will help perpetuate that lie with the children. So
Yeah. I also liked my favorite one was like the Tooth Fairy because there's no real lead into it. We didn't prepare her for it.
Mhm.
So she just wakes up to money and a note. What is this? And it's like, oh, that was
Let me
fun.
tell you a
And then she
story.
discovered that it wasn't real, and I'm like, all right, I'm not giving you money anymore. Then it's not. You took away all the fun from me. Baugh or nah, your favorite fast food fries are from McDonald's.
Nah.
Okay, then what is?
Ooh, favorite fast food fry. It's hard to find, and they're not
Okay.
around often. But you know Checkers, the fast food Checkers.
I'm familiar with Checkers.
the
yes.
seasoned fries.
Yes.
those are the winners.
Last time Ari was in Orlando, I don't remember if it's Checkers or Rallies.
I think they're the same brand, but
Yeah, that's why it's I'm not sure which one it was, but it's all right, I've heard about these fries. I have to go visit that place.
what'd you think?
They're
It's a solid fry.
they're a good fry. They're a great fry. It's just a matter of it's hard to compare a seasoned fry to a regular fry.
Yeah,
It's two different
or
categories.
skin on
really.
potato versus a skinned potato.
It's really their own categories, and it's kind of unfair to compare.
Yeah, true.
across.
And I don't really consider Five Guys fast food, but Five Guys also has a very delicious fry. But
Interesting. Okay. Baugh or nah, you have an embarrassing nickname or a nickname that you hate. It doesn't have to be embarrassing.
Baugh,
And what is that nickname?
let's share it.
I mean, if you want, or if it's
not.
that
It's not I don't know
embarrassing.
that it's embarrassing. It's kind of interesting. So, I have a friend or a few friends actually that I'm sure you've heard of Ricky Martin.
Yeah.
They call me Wiki Martin. So I am if I hear a story, I'll look it up and I'll learn about it and then I retain it and I don't know, it just gets locked in.
Yeah.
And so I am just plethora of just odd information during a conversation. And it's not something that I just say oh, did you know?
Yeah.
But it's when they're saying, oh, what happens here? And so point of rental has caused one of these for me.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 58% of Android users in our mobile app right now. So it's our, of iOS. Android is the minority. iOS is the majority.
Okay.
And so we're 60-40 split, easy numbers to put down.
Yeah.
And so that actually led to me thinking, well, what is the U.S.? And believe it or not, it's 60-40 split. It's 58.7.
Yeah.
And so oddly enough, our numbers, as we've now tracked, over 1,200 users, trend exactly the way the U.S. does. And so I know correlation is not causation, but it is pretty interesting that the average U.S. phone buyer is 60
Yeah.
iOS, 40 Android, and our average user of PR1 60/40.
Well, it feels like that means that we're not prioritizing like one well over the other, or it's like our thing is not a much better experience on one or the other. It's like, okay, it's clearly it works on both, and everyone's kind of into it no matter what.
Yep, yeah. and it trends nicely. And so as it, I was on a conversation this weekend with friends, and someone just said something about,
oh yeah,
I think Android's more popular. And I was like, actually, I could tell you because the point of rental, I looked it up and now I know. And so just in this odd, this odd conversation over coffee, I'm like, well, you might think because, a lot of people do speak more highly or more towards Android, or they're more fervent when they speak about it.
Yeah.
I was like, but it's 60/40. And so I get the moniker Wiki Martin for having a Wikipedia of knowledge during conversations from them.
Well, that's kind of my thing. So I'm gonna call myself Wiki Ricardo.
Nice.
All right, let's take a break and we'll get to some more questions.
Yeah, sounds good.
At first, I was excited that people really started noticing me.
Looking good, Scotty.
Hey, Scott, where'd you get that shirt?
That shirt?
Jeez!
Hey, you been working out?
But now it's hard to not feel like a piece of meat sometimes. Yeah, no, so I'm just working on this profiles things for Salesforce, and I just don't know this. But dude, come on, my eyes are up here. The shirt is really nice though. I just wish people would stop obsessing over it. Hey, come on, man, not you too. All right, this interview's over.
I asked you for a personal mission statement before this episode. Did you make it up for the sheet, or is this something that you actually remember?
This is something that I remember. It's a quote, and it's that travel is faithful to the prejudiced, the bigoted, and narrow-mindedness. And so it's a Mark Twain quote that I read in an airport, oddly enough. I think it was in Chicago at O'Hare. And
that's big airport pushing travel on you, though.
Yeah, yeah. And I saw it, and I think it was just on a little poster or something for a restaurant. I don't even know why it was there, but or maybe it was one of those little bookstores.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
That would make sense.
Brookstones at the airport or something. But it stuck with me, and as I have, been able to, actually delve into travel and actually do what I'm passionate about, I feel that and I see that, and you start realizing that you don't compare yourselves to things anymore, and you stop interjecting with I feels and I thinks, and you start listening because you see how everything can be done differently, and how there's successes all over the world, and how there's struggles all over the world, and you start to realize that and they're unique to everybody, right? Like the hardest thing you do today, Brian, is yours. That's the most difficult thing you do, but it's not the same as my most difficult thing, and you can't compare them. It's still the most challenging thing you did today.
Yep.
And as you see that across the world, you start to recognize that in people, and that you can't compare yourselves to them, and that you can't compare the challenges. And like I said, just start to listen and understand, and just enjoy them for being there.
Yeah. Is that before you did the travel trailer thing and you decided, hey, I want to go forever travel for a while?
So this was long before.
Okay.
This was long before. This was actually when I was deciding if I was going to push my career professionally to be someone who worked more globally and to be traveling. And so it has perpetuated that. It has seeded more travel than I'd done previously, where I had been out of the United States a few times and had mostly done U.S. And then I started to really pursue other adventures in other countries and things like that. And so, it's helped fueled, I guess it was a catalyst, so to speak, to some extent.
Okay. As we mentioned, you did a travel trailer thing for a few years. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear a couple of stories from the road, I guess. What's like the craziest thing that happened to you when you're over a span of a few years? I imagine something interesting had to happen.
There's a lot of interesting things, but it depends on what you see crazy. Forest fires are crazy. Wildfires.
That sounds pretty crazy.
They're terrifying. I don't like seeing that. Actually, I woke up one morning, and it was the most eerie quiet I think I've ever experienced. And I couldn't put my finger on what was going on. And then a fire truck came by and said, "Hey, we're under voluntary evacuation, but by noon we think it'll be mandatory." And I said, "Is that why it's so eerie quiet?" And he's like, "Yeah, all the animals leave first."
Yep.
And I didn't realize that it was just a still, dead forest. That how the squirrels and the birds and like they make just this kind of rustling, this white noise
Yeah.
that you don't know is there until it's gone.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that was pretty intense.
So you left while it was still voluntary.
I did.
You're like, you know what? I'm mobile. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, and it's your office, it's your home. It also happens to be nearly everything you own.
Yeah.
So you are definitely eager to keep yourself safe and out of harm's way.
Okay. Well, that seems sane.
Yep.
Any other stories?
Um,
Any advice for someone who, besides go out and do it if you want to do it, do you have any advice for someone considering this this travel trailer experience?
the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that it is A, easy, and B, cheap, and it is neither.
Okay.
It's not super expensive, but it'll be about the same as you pay in an apartment. I mean, my diesel and upkeep on the truck alone was $400-500 a month. Obviously you can mitigate that if you travel less or do fewer things, but
the point I think is to travel, so it seems kind of weird to be like,
yeah, the point is to travel,
Yeah.
and so it's to plan the expenses side, and then you are basically just shaking your house driving down the road. There's actually videos where people put cameras inside of a trailer while driving down the road. You should watch one. It's just shaking, and like whenever you like in your car, imagine you like look down, you see the water kind of trembling like it does in Jurassic Park. Like that's happening to everything you own. It is just sitting there, vibrating and shaking, and so things get loose and break and shift, and so you're kind of always doing something as well. And so you definitely need to be dedicated to it. And I would say that if anyone wanted to go into the lifestyle, to rent something first and do it for like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and then purchase.
And maybe, don't cut corners real tight and
Don't cut
don't make
corners
those
tight.
sudden moves.
Yeah. Get gloves because the sanitation side of it's not awesome.
Oh, yeah. That's
Always have gloves. Always, always, always gloves.
All right. It's like a Lieutenant Dan situation with, always bring socks.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, always bring gloves.
Yes.
I cannot
Gloves
stress this enough.
And flashlights. I end up having flashlights in every door of the truck, in every drawer of the rig,
Mhm.
because like it's the darkest dark. Like you are trying to get away from cities, and so like you need to have a flashlight everywhere. Like I got to the point where I just had this little micro one on my keychain. Like you always need a flashlight as well. So yeah, there's lots of little things you could learn, but that's what I say. Go rent one for 2 weeks. Make sure you want to do it. Make a few mistakes with somebody else's equipment and trial it out and see if you like it, and then go for it.
All right. I would like to play a game called First Pitch. And in
Okay.
First Pitch, what we'll do is you have a month, and you're going to have to start a rental business after this month. So you don't have a whole lot of time to acquire stuff. You don't have a whole lot of time to get a location and like scout everything and figure everything out. So, based on like your knowledge and your expertise, what do you think you would start your rental business renting?
I'm going to go back to hiking.
Okay.
I'm gonna rent hiking gear. One, it puts me in a place where the mountains and things that I like to do and trails will be easily accessible, and I have a stronger core of knowledge of the gear and the things people need and the kind of kits that would a beginner might come into rent versus someone who's a novice would actually have purchased and owned.
Yeah. So are you going to be one of those people out in those like remote towns where people do go to hike, and you're just going to be kind of that local expert, or are you running this thing remotely?
I would. So it actually did. It's funny you say
You
that.
only have a month to set it up.
Yeah. So you only have a month. So I would actually think that it's actually, while a huge endeavor to launch one is wonderful as our e-commerce solution, there are a number of platforms you could join on pretty easily. So I'd probably do a simple web-focused e-commerce with trailside delivery. So yeah, I'd pick a busy town, and I would show up and kick things out of the trunk of the car into people's hands and go from there and see how it evolves.
All right. That sounds fun. Okay, let's do the 5 important questions now.
Okay.
5 important questions. 5 important questions? 5 important questions.
Number 1, what would you say is your greatest success in life?
My greatest success in life.
Yep, we like to start it off with a nice, easy.
Nice, easy
Yeah.
one. I'm gonna actually go back to one of the things I put as a hobby.
Okay.
So my greatest success in life has been the number of opportunities that I've made for myself to go traveling and to spend time, in the air. And it's kind of funny. I've was joking with a friend in Jacksonville that I've had more meals on a plane than he's been in a plane, and I was like, I've actually had the opportunity to actually have more dinners than you have had flights, and that's a great thing. And so, I'd say my greatest success has been able to carve out the time and the resources to be able to get out and do those things that I love and cherish so deeply.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it would suck to spend a whole life not doing stuff that you enjoy.
Yep.
Number 2, what is your greatest fear?
Oh, so this is kind of somber,
I mean,
but I guess fear should be, right?
Yeah.
And so I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and then I also have a core group of friends that I know from high school and even earlier on.
Yeah, I would hope that you know them.
Well, yeah, but I've been very fortunate to actually keep a core group of friends for decades now.
Yeah.
And so they're family as well at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read this saying that, with your siblings or your core friend group, one of you will be at all of the funerals, one of you will be at none of them,
Yeah.
and one of you will die without the others. And so I guess I'm kind of afraid to know which one of those I am.
Okay. So
And so
the only way you never know is if you're the first.
exactly. Yeah. So you're either the first, and if you're the last, you're also alone.
Yeah.
And while that means you had led the longest life, and obviously being alive is wonderful.
Yeah.
It also means that none of the people you cherish so deeply will be celebrating your life because you celebrated theirs, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And so so that when I read that little statement, whatever it was, a couple years back, it has come up several times where I just like I guess it's a fear of the unknown. It's like I wonder where those will be, where you'll be in that line. So it's like I said, it's kind of somber, a little morose, but
I was gonna say maybe you convert that mindset. Like if you are in the last few, then it's like, all right, you know what? I'm not gonna be sad about this anymore. Now my goal is just to defeat all of you.
What's that movie? The Jet Li, the one? You're gonna be the
Yeah.
one to outlive everybody.
Yeah. Okay, if you could tell first day at point of rental Martin one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
Oh, that is good. That's a good question. One thing I could tell them.
Yep.
Or tell him, sorry.
Tell yourself, really.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be an alternate reality, so I expect this to be another person.
Yeah, don't worry, we're not having like a paradox situation.
Okay, so no time travel paradoxes. So it was a new industry for me to come into rental, vastly different from arcades and amusement, which is from even when I was 16. That's where I grew up. And actually the restaurants I ran were family entertainment centers. Like I was always tethered to that kind of amusement sector. And so I knew it really well. And so it was, kind of interesting or challenging rather to come into to Point of Rental and to learn. And I think the thing that I would tell First Day Martin is to convince David Jensen to bring you to a rental center, and I would have stayed a week with him and just learned everything I could, or 2 days or 3 days, whatever timeline he gave me. I did over the course of time learn those things through different conversations and, of course, different solutions we were trying to bring to our customers.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to have just like had that huge leapfrog. And David's actually similar to me, but he came from rental, so he used to operate and come from it, and so he's been a huge contributor to my successes and to just being able to understand how rental operations work or the kinds of challenges they face or what it's like to be someone there. Because David stood there and faced the person who was trying to
Yeah.
prep the items going on rent. And yeah, so I probably would have said like push to be that person to like just go out, at week 2,
Yeah, and I
go
know
to
our
a rental store.
I know our support team is like pushing to have people invite some support people, but yeah, I think it's really good for really everyone within the company.
100% agree. Yeah,
Just
and
get
that's
that
what I would say.
perspective.
4 years ago, I'd be like, get a flight booked, drag Jensen if you can,
Yeah.
or anybody. There's a number of people. John Wooten would have been fantastic. There's so many different people on the team that would have been a fantastic, contributor to the knowledge. But like, grab somebody who knows what they're doing so that you don't, get your head lopped off walking through the rental yard and, go learn, get saturated. And it's awesome to hear the support's looking to do that too. Because that's one thing I've learned is that my time with customers and actually seeing them has been just paramount in learning.
Yeah. Okay, what's something that you believe that it feels like no one agrees with you on?
Oh, I can't remember what I remember. You asked me this. We were chatting about
I'm sure
this.
I'm sure you have many beliefs that no one agrees with you on. You seem like a disagreeable fellow.
So one thing I disagree with, and this actually wasn't the thing that I thought about earlier, but it's one I do think about often. So I'm glad you're giving me the opportunity to pivot. I always hear people telling me like, "Oh, when I retire," or "Oh, when this happens." I'm like, "You can do that now.
Yeah.
Why not now?" And a prime example of that is, I lived in a travel trailer for the last 3 years, and people tell me, "Oh, I plan on traveling in a travel trailer when I'm retired." Go do it now. I just did. Kirk's doing it right now too.
Yep.
Like,
I don't know. When Kirk describes it, I'm like, nah.
Look,
I don't really want.
it is challenging, but it just, why are you waiting? And so,
Yeah.
and they're dead end conversations, unfortunately, and that's why I know that I believe this and other people don't. When I say like, you don't have to wait for you to be retired or for your kids to be out of the house to pursue a dream that you have.
That's true.
Go do it.
Yeah, I don't want to go on one of those things with my daughter or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, I can't wait. I want to move to the mountains. Go.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. You could be that first friend who dies, and like if you're if you are, then you missed out on your chance to do that thing.
Yeah, I feel like those are people missing opportunities, and that we don't know if we're going to get the next day. And so, it's you hear a lot of it, and especially, now I'm in my 40s. It's like I hear it more and more. I can't wait until. I'm like, just do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry you've been sentenced to death. It's a good thing that you're doing these things and not waiting and not putting them off, because you've been sentenced to death as believing the way you do.
Okay.
It's now a capital offense. What's your last meal and why?
So I absolutely love Thai food, Southeast Asian Thai food. And so it'd be som tom, which is papaya salad
Okay.
with shrimp.
Thank you for translating, because I sure don't know it.
And then I would have a dessert of sticky rice with mango, which is in my opinion, the best dessert that has ever graced this planet. And so I would do those two things.
All right. Any beverage? Or
Ooh. They like it. It's kind of interesting. If you're over there, they have like a lighter beer. They have one called Leo, and they serve it with ice.
interesting.
And so I think to really like round out the experience,
Okay.
I would do that.
All right. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? And this is like a snap, like magic type thing.
This is going to surprise you.
You don't have to work.
This is going to surprise you.
Okay.
I procrastinate sometimes.
Okay.
And so I would change that. There are definitely things that I deprioritize for others, and while I am fantastic at planning and projecting and other things, that is one thing that like once I do deprioritize something, I think that I wait too long to bring it back into the shuffle sometimes, and so it's kind of interesting because. From like the backlog or professional sense, like that side, I do really well. It's like I almost need to do the same thing for my own life, and so, I'd love to change that and not have those few little things that I wait on.
Yeah, but it kind of becomes one of those things, kind of like you were talking about with nature. It's like you're doing it so much professionally. Like in marketing, I do a lot of writing, and it's like I don't. The last thing I want to do when I go home is like
Just
write
do
other
some writing.
stuff.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about point of rental, what would it be?
Hmm.
Again, magic wand.
Magic snap of the fingers.
Yep.
So I'm going to speak close to home. And if you recall, the thing I loved most was we put our heads down and worked on revamping the routes feature, and
Yep.
getting that just awesome. Is that I feel at times we have like too many or competing priorities, and I'd love to just like dedicate to certain things. And so, yeah, if I could snap my fingers, I would pull in our focus even more, because I saw the success that it brought us, and it's kind of hard to just jump back around and forth to other things. But yeah, if I could change something, I would say it's just kind of like get even more focused
Okay.
for us.
Yeah, I'm feeling like it's kind of like I obviously you had the waterfall analogy earlier. It
Yeah.
feels like kind of there's a level of I want to say more rapids. Agile feels like it's going over all these rocks and like spreading out and moving all over these
Mhm.
places. But you want some times where it's more in that channel straight away, like
Yeah,
smooth.
you want to be able to change direction and change quickly, but you also want like
Yeah.
I said, well, when you have waterfall experience, like when you know this is the thing you got to do, like let's just do it.
Yep.
And let's lock the door and not come out until we're finished.
Tell me a secret about point of rental. Something that not enough people know about.
A secret about point of rental.
Yeah. Now that so many people are remote, there's even more secrets to be had.
I don't really know if I even know what I consider a secret. I don't. Okay, well, I guess more tied to mobile. One of the things that like I guess it's easy to think or believe is that like like we're like tied into Elite, and so it's like Pure One did this, Pure One, but a lot of it's like I don't want to say smoke and mirrors, but like APIs do a lot of wonderful things, and we have this awesome API, and it's like kind of just gets like lost. I don't know if it's necessarily a secret, but a lot of times what we're doing and like the output come of it seems like there's just dot A and dot B, and like no one sees how
Yeah.
they're connected. And I'm actually on that team. It's our API team. It's part of our payments team, and that's actually when you say I'm on mobile, I'm actually there as well.
Okay.
And that's something a lot of people don't know either.
See?
Is that I head up the API prioritization and backlog management as well, and that thing I mean really is like the backbone to our e-commerce solution, to our mobile solution, to our payment solution, and so it's just this tied in piece, and like never gets any like spotlight. No one really even knows it's there. Like there's a few people that do, but yeah, for the most part, people just think that like these other things are just tied into Elite, or they're tied into Essentials, or they're tied into Searings. And the reality is there's this whole other group of people getting things done.
Yeah. Well, maybe after this interview, tell me more about it, and then we can tell people about it, because
We'll talk about it some more.
that's kind of my thing.
But yeah, I didn't even think my one secret led to the others. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that I sit with payments and API as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Martin, for joining me today. Thank you, Andrew and Daria, for your help with producing the podcast, and thanks to you out there for watching / listening / whatever, however you're interacting with this. Please share the podcast with your friends, and then we can all talk about Martin behind his back together. And I'll see you next month. We'll keep Porch Light burning for you.